And before we start the meeting, I just wanted to take a minute to do a land acknowledgement. And I'll do this in two parts. So there's a land acknowledgement that I usually use that was prepared by Concordia University. And I'll just read that and then I'll just make another statement after that. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am speaking to you on unceded Indigenous lands. The Kanien'kehá:ka Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which I am speaking today. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect continued connections with the past, present, and future, and ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. And I just wanted to add another piece, as I'm sure everyone here has been very upset by, what was discovered on Friday last week. And I've also been reflecting a lot on what the land acknowledgement is, that we do. And this is partly really informed by a session we had with an anti-oppression leader named Rania El-Mugamar that we did last month. And she talked a lot about, what is the land acknowledgement and how it can be paired with an action. How do we personally reflect on the fact that we're on occupied land? So I decided this morning to do a donation to an organization that supports residential school survivors. And I think that just for me personally, this helps me to feel that the land acknowledgement is not a passive acknowledgement, but an active acknowledgement. So I just wanted to share in the chat the organization that I did donate to, which is in BC. I'll just put that there. And that's just what I wanted to share. So I'll just talk about how we're going to set up the meeting today. I'll just speak for a couple of minutes. Mira is going to speak for a couple of minutes. And we want to run some polls because we want to get a sense of, who's here and what your experiences are. So just a couple of polls, yes, no answers, and then we'll be able to share the results live. And then we'll just have some questions. And then we thought we'd put people into breakout rooms so you can have a few minutes to just mingle and chat. And then at the end, we want to have a session of a group discussion so we can all talk together and really feel like we're getting a good sense of what's important to everyone. So as I said, I'm the executive director of the organization. So DOC has been around for almost 40 years. I've been in this role since January. So I'm new to the role. My background is a producer. I've been an independent documentary producer in Montreal for about 15 years. So I do know the industry quite well, but it's been really interesting stepping into this role of advocacy on behalf of the community. And also just getting to know filmmakers across the country even better. So that's been really great. DOC is set up with 6 chapters across the country. So I'm really regularly speaking to all the chapters. We have a national board that I work with really closely, an advocacy committee that I also work with closely on our political work. Essentially what has been the focus is, lobbying the institutions to properly support documentary filmmakers, working a lot on anti-oppression work and equity in the industry, and making sure that we really have a sense of what our filmmakers across the country are dealing with, especially in the regions and rural, remote areas of Canada. So I think that's all I'll say for now. I'll pass the mic over to Mira to talk a little bit about why she wanted to put this meeting together and a little bit about herself.
So hi there. As I said at the start, my name is Mira Khanna. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator with DOC. Time has flown. I started just 5 or so months back, I think a little bit less than that. And I just graduated from the Ryerson School of Journalism. So I just started at DOC doing sort of a co-op for my final year, and then I transitioned into full time. So since then, what I've been really trying to do with Sarah is obviously do things from a communications and outreach standpoint and from an admin standpoint as well. So I'll focus on the communications and sort of the sort of outreach side of things. So what we've been working a lot on is festivals and partnering with them and seeing if we can find ways to sort of make the submission side, the cost, the ways in which our filmmakers can access these different festivals and outside of Canada a lot easier. On top of that as well, on the outreach side, we've had a huge sort of surge in our membership in the last while, especially since we've implemented a new category that's 2 years free for new BIPOC members of DOC who like newly join. And we thought that there's a bridge between startup and like BIPOC as well. And we found that there is a huge chunk of our membership who is emerging into DOC, into sort of documentaries, and are learning how to navigate that, but don't quite know where to start and how, or you know, they're new sort of emerging members with DOC that are trying to figure out sort of what DOC does and what we can do to sort of help them. And so we've been really trying to find ways to listen to our sort of membership and get a sense of what you need and how to sort of reach out to our members who have newly joined and see how we can really help like serve them as well. So on that front, I am transitioning into something new in the next week and some change, but I really wanted to do as much as I possibly could to not only set the next person up for success who will be taking my spot, but also just to do as much as possible to sort of get a sense of what the membership is and what is needed, and sort of what more we can possibly do. As I kind of said in the blast, we're always trying to find ways to do that, but I think part of it is kind of having this town hall sort of concept where if our job is to serve our sort of membership, what better way to sort of navigate that than actually like touching base and hearing from you all what you each need, and then kind of restructuring from there. So we definitely felt like checking in was a great way to sort of navigate that. And so in my last sort of week here, I really wanted to make sure that I was doing that. And yeah.
Great, thanks, Mira. So maybe we'll jump into a couple of polls that Mira's put together, and we'll just run through those quickly and then share the responses, just so everyone can get a sense of who's in the room.
Yeah, I'll just launch it right now. There you go. You can let me know and unmute your mic or write in the chat if you don't see the poll, but it should be up now.
Did those results come in live?
Yeah, we're at 86% right now.
Great.
I'll give it a few more. Okay, we're at 100%, it says, so I'm just going to end the poll.
Great.
Great, so I'm just going to get those results. Thank you. Awesome.
Great. Do you want to share that? I actually can't see because I'm co-hosting with you. Maybe you could just say them out loud for everyone.
Yeah, sure. So I'll try to share them up here. And it says, so do you have your own startup production, your own company? So 60% of you said yes and 40 said no. And then for the second one, are you based outside of Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver? 40% of you said that yes, you were, and 60% said no. So yeah, there's kind of an even split for kind of those ones, or like kind of around that. And then the third one is, have you attended other meetings, webinars, or events with DOC so far in your membership? 73% of you said yes, you had, and 27 said no. So
Great.
Thank you all for doing that. And yeah.
Okay, great. So if anybody has, we thought we'd take a few minutes to just answer some questions before we head into breakout rooms. So if you have any questions for me or for Mira about the organization, about your production, about funding, anything that you have questions on, we'd be really happy to just respond as best we can. You can just unmute yourself and go for it if you like. We'll keep it informal. No questions popping up. Is everyone is anyone currently in production on a project?
I have a question.
Patrice. Yes.
How can you help us with the funding? Because I'm currently completing the demand for Conseil des Arts of Quebec and Conseil des Arts of Canada.
Yeah.
So I would like to know how you can help us with that, and also if you can help us with either the writing or finding people to help us to film a project.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a couple of interesting things about the arts councils. So the Conseil des Arts de Montréal, they will participate in projects that are what they call complex financial structures, where perhaps you've also got a broadcaster, you've got the National Film Board, you've got tax credits. They're really looking at, is the project remaining artist driven? And then the Canada Arts Council is a lot stricter in terms of the types of projects that it will support. So say you want to work with a producer, or say you want to work with a production company, that's almost always really forbidden by the Canada Arts Council. So with every project that you're starting, sort of at the beginning, you think about, okay, is this a project that's going to be funded in the Arts Council route or in the industrial telefilm, CMF, CBC, Télé-Québec route? So I think these are two things to consider when you're starting out, because sometimes they don't fit, which is unfortunate, but there's lots of logic behind that I'd be happy to talk to you about another time. In terms of applying for those grants and support, I know that Black on Black Films, I don't know if you know Eric Canago and Black on Black Films, so they provide a lot of support for that, and they have workshops there. There are a lot of workshops also run by BIPOC Film and TV. So they have programs. I think, Mira, maybe you know, is it French also, or is it just in English? I know they have French programs, part of Higher BIPOC, but yeah.
They've done a couple events with translation in the past. Yeah, so sometimes they'll do language specific ones, or they'll hone in on something. So they kind of do everything, which is nice. Yeah.
And then the National Screen Institute also offers some training and workshop programs for grant writing. But maybe what I'll do, Patrice, is I'll follow up and send you a list of some of the supports, because there are a lot of grant writing workshops out there. So maybe I'll just put together a little list for you. And it is a really different style of writing, grant writing and pitching to broadcasters. So also, as you're putting your project funding together, you'll find yourself shifting the language quite a bit as you're describing your film to an Arts Council jury, which is a jury of your peers who you likely know some of, or you know their work and they know your work, and then broadcasters who are really thinking about, you know, how many eyeballs are going to watch this? Is this going to get a lot of clicks? Like, it's really a different mentality. I don't know if any of you attended our CBC webinar.
Yes, I did.
So you can see it's really different. Like, the kinds of things we're looking for are really different. But and I would be happy to talk to you more about the kinds of support, especially in Quebec, in French, later on, Patrice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
To follow up on Patrice's question, I think the resources are there. So I took many courses on grant writing from many different institutions across Canada, but I am writing all the grants, but I don't have a person that I can talk to, show my grant and get feedback on. So I think it is such a challenging situation because you're not sure, you're applying all the learnings you learned from all these grant writing seminars. Believe me, I attended more than 10, and many of them talk about the similar things. They have great tips, suggestions, but when you're doing it on your own and you don't have anyone to get feedback, I think it's I'm not sure if I'm moving the needle there. So I'm curious if there's like a forum group where I can submit my grant, submit my proposal package or anything I need to get funding to a group of experienced filmmakers, so then they can provide me feedback.
I think that's a really excellent point. It makes me think about our festival concierge program, which essentially is we've brought together experts in the field of festivals and distribution, and then you can pay for them to watch your film and create a personalized festival strategy for you to launch your film. But what you're saying really makes me think that perhaps it would be useful to provide that service for grant writing for people who are starting in on the earlier stages of their project. I've done script editing. A lot of veteran producers have done script editing. And I think there's a really large pool of talent that we could pull from to read through your grant, have in mind who you're submitting to, and give you advice and edit your script in English or in French or perhaps other languages. I think this is a really good takeaway, actually, if everyone feels like that's something that would be helpful. To have some sort of service where you could access, just have people review your grant writing. Okay, great. Getting some hands up there. Good. Okay, great. Perfect. So this is already useful. Does anyone else have some things that they would like support on or questions about the industry?
Kira, am I pronouncing your name right? I think you have your hand up.
Great.
Thank you. It's Lochran. My question, I went to your Meet the Funders, the last Meet the Funders session with the CBC Unscripted folks, and it was fantastic, but it went fast. And I missed the first part because I had a meeting that went late, and I was wondering if a full transcript could be made available of it, or if I'd looked at one point and it wasn't up yet, and I didn't know if it was now.
Yeah. So they asked us not to record it because they are thinking, I think correctly, that their ideas about Passion and I are going to shift over the next few months, and they would rather do another session with us in the fall talking about how the program has evolved. But I do have a transcript and I will send it to you, Kira.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to put my email here. So anyone who I'm saying this to, please just shoot me an email and I'll send you the transcript or send you the other advice Patrice that I was talking about. I also have some broad takeaways that I'll send you to, Kira, which are just kind of a summary of what I took out of the conversation too, like the broad strokes.
If I can continue, maybe on a different note. I've been a theater artist for the last 25 years. So COVID has brought me into digital, and I've been very lucky through colleagues that have worked in both or that have moved into film, and I'm a big doc fan. Like I that tends to be what I like to watch. But what I'm finding is there's a bit of there's a lot of shift, and I think there's more interest on the theater folks side because we can't work right now. But just to apply our storytelling skills, we're more mature storytellers, but there's a lot of like how the industry works kind of thing that I just lack. And this sounds really stupid, but I kind of in some ways also just lack the, when I'm 20 and have the drive to kind of be that new to it. I've been lucky enough to be able to meet with other people. I don't mind doing work at all, but it sort of feels like it's just the industrial side, as you were talking about, moving from not-for-profit grant writing into pitches that even, I have resources, but it still feels a bit oh God, I don't know, like overwhelming or confusing and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know if there's something that exists already within Doc to kind of address that, or if that is something that you're seeing a lot of over the last year. I was brought to the Institute by someone in film who's like, you should join this. And then your membership thing was the thing that made me go, oh, great. Oh, one way in. But yeah.
Definitely. So the Doc Institute, which is the Toronto chapter, but obviously now their programming is national because it's virtual. So they do producer training programs. And I think that it would be great to connect with them about that. And again, so when we follow up, Kira, I'll send you the emails of the director of the Doc Institute so you can check in with when their applications are opening and all of that. But I do feel like there is a need maybe for a 101 session, like just what's the ecosystem of the industry and how does it work and who are the funders and how do they fit together or not fit together? Like I wonder what everyone thinks about that, because sometimes just an overview, and I used to do this sometimes when people were kind of emerging into the industry and they would just kind of want a couple of hours to chat through how it all fits together. I wonder if something like that would be useful, almost like a Doc Industry 101 session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seeing some thumbs up here. Yeah, that's definitely something that we can do, which I think, that's a webinar that we could easily put together if that's something everyone would feel is useful. Great.
Do we have any other questions? I see a thumbs up from Kathy. Is that like a hand up or a thumbs up to the idea?
It's a thumbs up that I couldn't lower.
Oh,
thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, and then I'm seeing a question, a direct message question. So what can Doc do to help with applying for funds, like the Hot Docs Cross Current funds? It would be helpful if there's feedback service on the applications provided by peers and mentors. Yeah, I think that would be really interesting. Not all of the funds provide feedback, and I think the Hot Docs funds do not provide any feedback on your applications. So this maybe would fit in with what I was thinking about in terms of a service where people are looking at your grants before you submit. This could also perhaps be a service where you could submit grants that you did not get in order to get feedback for your next round of applications. Sometimes it's just a matter of something being really clear to you, but then, it's just not necessarily clear for the person who's reading it if they, don't have your background in the project. Sometimes people who are coming at documentary from other disciplines, it just takes a while to get used to how to write about documentaries. What does that even mean when you're describing your project that you haven't shot yet? And they're tasking you what's going to happen in the film, and you're like, I don't know. But I always describe it as the process of like what they're investing in is your ability to imagine what the film will be. And that's what the grants are investing in. I think understanding how to write that and how to kind of incorporate that idea into your project is something that it takes time. But yeah, maybe feedback on grant applications could be part of this program we could put together that's related to script writing. Okay, should we do
one more question?
Please, yeah.
If it will be a short one. So another question around grant writing and getting a fund. A lot of times I heard people saying, the instructors are saying, oh, find an experienced producer. So how do I find an experienced producer? Do I chase them on the streets? I don't think so. Like cold call them, write them an email. How do people find an experienced producer, and how do that they convince them to get on board with their project? I think this is a big, probably $1 million question, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm so happy that I have an answer for you. So this has come up, and when we're building our new website, I'll just throw the website link in the chat here. But so we heard that feedback from people who were joining the organization. And so what we decided to do is with the new site, there's a doc directory, which is a directory of all of the members, and veteran producers can tag themselves available for mentorship. So everybody here should set up your profile in the doc directory if you haven't already. And then you can look and you can search and see who has tagged themselves available for mentorship. And there's actually quite a lot. So all of these people have opened their doors to you, and you should feel free to reach out to everybody. So it's not an expensive question. It's already solved.
I have a comment, if you allow me.
Please.
Just a comment, anyways. I am a Canadian Brazilian filmmaker, have been around for some time, and have been finding myself in a limbo situation because my projects, they are cultural educational projects. When I talk to Council for the Arts, they say, okay, you should, this is not an artistic project, you should talk to the commercial broadcasters. When I talk to the commercial broadcasters, oh, this is too cultural, this is too educational, this is too artistic. So majority of my project, I can't find funding. Now, having said that, one of my preoccupations is the very fact that we don't have like a number of educational, cultural broadcasters in Canada. We used to have more, as you guys know, but we don't have them anymore. So this is a preoccupation that I have. I come from a situation in which I used to work with a number of educational broadcasters, and we have less and less here in Canada. For instance, when I see CBC acting as a commercial broadcaster, you know, it worries me a little bit. So I'm just bringing this subject so that we think about it.
For sure. What region of the country are you in?
Alberta.
You're in Alberta.
Edmonton.
Edmonton. Yeah, it's a big problem. I don't have an answer right now because there are so few broadcasters and the projects they're looking to finance are limited. I will say that there's one avenue you could think about exploring, which is the CMF's Diverse Languages program. So if you're doing projects that are in, you said you're doing projects in Portuguese, in English?
No, not in Portuguese. My majority of my projects, they are more like cultural projects.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
So not commercial, for-profit projects.
Right. So, but there's a program, if you're doing projects that are not in English, French, or an Indigenous language, there is a program called the Diverse Languages Envelope that the Canada Media Fund administers. So if you find a broadcaster that is going to broadcast your program in that language first, the threshold is quite low. I think it's about 10% of the budget. So if you can find a broadcaster that'll come in for that, you can access quite a bit of money through the Diverse Languages program. And this is where projects like that aren't necessarily fitting within CBC's very, very strict mandate or TVO's strict mandate or knowledge networks, et cetera. There's some spaces that the commercial industry is funding for projects that are a little bit outside of what they would consider these like really, really strict silos of how they're thinking about the film industry. But I'm going to think about it a little bit more, and maybe it's something that we can, you can also talk to your chapter about, because you would have a better sense of what the ecosystem is in that region. So you can maybe reach out to your chapter and see if they might be able to put together some sort of like funding event specific to that region. To help.
Yeah, Sarah, I'm just saying, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just a preoccupation. I have been around for some years, and as I said, I guess this is an advocacy type of question, so that we think.
Yeah.
Cultural projects, educational projects that basically do not have really a place in Canada as much as I would like to see. It's very difficult because when you talk, as I said, to Council for the Arts in Canada, you know, it's a documentary project. Then they say, well, you should talk to the commercial broadcasters. And of course, you know, cultural educational projects, they're not interested. You know, they're always talking about audience, how you build your audience. I guess it's a broader discussion that I'm bringing, you know. For instance, we used to have in this country an educational station in every single province. Nowadays, I guess we're down to 3 provinces, right? I guess we have Knowledge, we have TV Ontario, and we have the educational TV in Montreal, that's all. So anyway, something for us to think.
Definitely. Thank you. Is there anyone else has a question? Maybe we can just jump in. Oh, Amy. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. I mean, there's just so many funds, accelerators, and every time someone sends them to me, I'm like, oh my God, it's due in a day. I don't have time to do them. So is there some kind of like Excel where if it's a cadence that happens every year, every fall, every winter, for us to find those different types? A lot of them are new and they come up, but then there are a few that have been running for a few years. I found myself in that situation a lot. Maybe the last 2 or 3 links that have been sent to me, I'm like, I have the bandwidth to write this entire thing in like 3 days.
Calendar would be really helpful. Okay, so some sort of like open source calendar where people could plug in grant application deadlines that everybody could access, so you can plan your time ahead a little bit.
Yeah, something like that, or like a sheet just tells you like this is that fund. This is usually the due date. It happens every fall and every spring. This is the link to it. Like even if it's the applications are closed, we at least keep it in mind and slot it into our own calendar.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. A really good takeaway. I'm gonna think about how we could maybe integrate that into the doc site. Again, I think like an open source Excel or Google Calendar or something. The funds change a lot, so it would really have to be something that can be live. But thanks, Amy. That's a really good point.
Does anyone else have any questions? If not, then maybe we can go into the breakout room portion of the meeting.
Yeah, let's let people meet each other a little bit.
Yeah, sure. And if anything does come up, then we can just touch base at the end if you have anything that you would like to ask. So I'm going to put you all into breakout rooms. We're going to do 5 minutes each. So I'll just assign automatically.
Should we do 5 people per room? Because there's 15, so that works out
3,
well.
4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, right now it's coming up to about 7 per room.
Great.
Do you want to do that then? We can just open that. Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Sounds good. Okay, so you should be getting an invite to join a breakout room. Oh, no, of course.
Okay.
Hey.
It's our first time doing something like this too, so we're also figuring it out.
It's short. It's good, but it's short.
Longer.
So, well, we kind of just got through intros, which is great to just get a sense of who's in the room, but not much to share knowledge. But, you know, it's breakout rooms and first time, so.
Yeah, well, I think definitely, I think we need to do this again in a couple of months, and we can have, so we'll have a longer session so that the breakout rooms can be longer. Okay, great.
We're also going to be shuffling you into another room, so that's actually great note. So we'll keep you in there for longer. So thank you. It's good to know for us.
Back, everybody. So we'll put you in the next room for a little bit longer, just so you have a chance to share a little more together.
Yes.
Okay.
We create. Okay. We'll see you all soon.
In a minute. And in terms of opening up the idea of the types of films that are funded, I do find that the CMF's new programs, their PPRC program, their pilot project for racialized filmmakers, is really open in terms of the type of content that they're looking to support. So I feel like the industry has shifted in that they're saying that these funds are going to be a lot more open to creative documentary filmmaking. And then the rest of the industry is going to catch up. But I think that that's where the Canada Media Fund has gotten the permission to be open to creative filmmaking approaches, because they have to justify everything to Heritage Canada and get permission, essentially, to have funds that don't require broadcast trigger or minimal broadcast trigger, funds that can be open to all different kinds of storytelling. So I think that we'll see if that the success of those programs, and I think that they will be really successful, maybe will pave the way a little bit more for the mainstream industry to see, okay, people love these films and they're doing well and they are not adhering to a very, very strict kind of format. So it'll be really interesting to see how those programs potentially change the landscape a little bit. I think we'll see.
But you have to get a broadcaster to trigger the CMF.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I think one thing I've been really looking closely at is the guidelines for the PPRC programs. So for development, and I really encourage everybody on this call who's eligible for the pilot program for racialized communities that's run by the Canada Media Fund. They have a June deadline for production. June 17th, I believe, is the date. You do not need a broadcaster to submit. You need 15% confirmed funding, but you will need a broadcaster by January. But the development program is a lot looser, and that's in September. So anyone who's eligible for the PPRC program at the CMF, you can submit to their pre-development program with just a letter of interest from any CRTC licensed broadcaster. No money needed, just a letter of interest. So you could go to your community access station, you can go to a mainstream broadcaster, you can go to any CRTC licensed broadcaster or CRTC licensed video on demand provider and just get a letter of interest for your project and unlock development funding. And then the development program, you do need a broadcaster letter, but there's no minimum amount that they need to put towards your project. They could literally put $100. So the CMF is really looking at these September deadlines as how do we really open up the financing and the types of projects that are getting funded in development. I really, really hope that all DOC members who are eligible go, especially for those September deadlines, because this is where you're going to see a big investment in development. These are projects that are, it's not a selective envelope. So you're eligible, you're going to get it. So I think that it's really, I really push everyone to go for those September development deadlines and to think outside the box about a CRTC licensed broadcaster. There are a lot. Community access, you should call them. Kira, yeah.
Is there a list of CRTC broadcasters that you could, or DOC could generate?
So one thing that's there on the CRTC site, you can find lists of everyone who's technically got a broadcaster license, but it's enormous. I've looked through it and it's not very clear, but there are community access stations across the country. And that's something that I'm really looking at closely to see how I can get these community access stations to help trigger funding for filmmakers, especially for these programs that don't require money, just a partnership with a broadcaster. So this is something I've been looking at a lot with the, I've been working with the Atlantic region, with the BC region, just looking at some of these regions where there are a lot of community access stations. So I'm happy to follow up on that. There is a network called Cactus Stations that see, like cactus, like the plant. And they are community access broadcasters. And they don't have money, but they have a CRTC license. So I've been looking and thinking about how they can help filmmakers enter into the ecosystem because they have that access. And I've talked to the CMF about this and they confirmed yesterday any CRTC licensed broadcasters. So I think there's some really interesting opportunities there for the development deadline in September for that program. Alex.
So so you're saying that yeah, I was a little confused by that what you just said there. So I know even the community access broadcasters like Eastlink, which do not get money from CMF. I was just a little confused with what you said there.
Yeah. So the CMF has a program called the PPRC program. So it's the pilot program for racialized communities. So anyone who's eligible for that program, you can go to their website and look at the communities that they're targeting with this. So they have development deadlines in September that are linked to broadcasters that have a CRTC license
Mhm.
but they are not obligating those broadcasters to put a minimum amount of money into the project.
Oh, okay.
So if Eastlink has a CRTC license, if you're eligible for that program, you can go and see if they'll give you either a letter of interest to access the pre-development funding or a very small broadcast fee to access their development funding.
Oh, okay.
I think that this is something that DOC members can really run with to get development money in September. And there's about $1 million in this fund. So there's quite a bit. So I think everyone should go get it. And it's a pilot program. So the success of this program is going to help the CMF justify renewing these types of funds that are not linked to broadcasters, because everybody has been saying broadcasters are a barrier to entry.
Okay, and just one other question.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I'm in Nova Scotia, so this particular program wouldn't apply to me. I heard you mention earlier that with the Montreal Arts Council, they're a little more flexible when it comes to funding sources from like CMF, NFB, or whatever. But I checked the Montreal Arts Council's website and found nothing.
So there's the Montreal Arts Council and there's the Quebec Arts Council.
CALQ.
Yeah, so that's Quebec, the CALQ. So the Montreal Arts Council doesn't fund individual films. They fund film organizations that disseminate films. So, festivals, community organizations, they don't fund individual projects except through the project that they fund once a year, which is, I can't remember the name, but they partner on a short film every year. It's a special grant. But the Quebec Arts Council, the CALQ, the Conseil des Arts et Lettres de Québec, they fund Quebec author-driven films. And you can access those as part of the overall ecosystem. The Canada Arts Council really wants to just see arts funding in the financial structure of the projects they support.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. I thought you said it was Montreal Arts Council for a second there, but it was actually CALQ that was what you meant. Yeah, but still, I was looking at the CALQ, and I'm just wondering where on the CALQ website you could actually find that kind of information on what funding sources they would accept, which ones they wouldn't, if they do have anything.
It wouldn't be on their website. You'd find this out by speaking to an agent, but you're only eligible for that if you're a Quebec resident.
Of course, I was just asking it, because I know a lot of because I know a bunch of docs that got CSA nominations this year. I looked at the funders and they said combining CALQ with organizations like other things that you wouldn't normally expect Arts Council funded docs to have. Yeah.
So I find that the arts councils tend to only want to fund projects that don't have commercial sources of revenue. Mm-hmm. But depending on the track record of the production company, if the production company has a track record of supporting artist-driven projects and the contracts that they sign with the directors support the director's vision and the director has final say on the edit and all of these things that are really specific to creative author-driven shows, then they will make exceptions. Okay. If there's a production company that produces really commercial work that where the director is a director for hire and it's producer-driven, there's no way the Arts Council would participate in that. So they're really looking at, is it artist-driven? Does the artist have creative control? Those are the types of projects that the arts councils are potentially going to be a little bit more flexible on.
Okay, yeah, that all makes sense.
Yeah. Just to mention, oops, my mic is on. Just to mention, it would be nice to have the context of people here because we had excellent conversations. I don't know if we can interact later on. Sarah, just a question for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I really encourage everyone to enter your information into the doc directory. And so we've set that up as a place where everyone is, you can see people's emails, you can reach out